We're going to start planting the garden. I create these little sheets that kind of lay out my garden, and I go through and look at the different fruits and vegetables that will go together very well. So that way they kind of help each other out. So as an example, with the carrots, I have those going in around the tomatoes. And instead of just planting them in clumps, you actually can plant them around your tomato plants. And that actually does help with certain pests that may attack your potatoes, or I'm sorry, your tomatoes, as well as maybe those that might be drawn to the sweetness of the carrot. So right now my son is just wetting down one of the garden beds. He actually just walked away and left the water running. But I'm gonna pan the camera over his way, and you're gonna see us plant the tomato bed. And I usually start my seeds indoors and then I transplant outdoors. This year was just so busy, I had to purchase pretty much everything that I'm doing this year, which I absolutely hate, except for my direct sow seeds, such as spinach and some legumes and things like that. Okay, so we're ready to get started. What I usually like to do is just kind of map out where everything is going to be for the garden, and I did share that little printout of what I do for each gardening bed. I'm holding actually right now in my hand eggplant, which I absolutely love. It is one of the hardest vegetables for me to grow. I don't know about you, if it's the same for you or anyone who's tried eggplant growing it. Please send me some tips or let me know if there's something I'm doing wrong with it. But usually I do start it from seed and I will get it up to a plant, but it never, maybe it will even flower, but I haven't yet to have received an eggplant. So I'm interested to see how does a store-bought transplant work for my garden. But anyhow, I usually only plant 2 or grow enough for 2 eggplants. I usually plant, when I transplant them, like a few of them just to make sure at least 2 of them take off. I think just for this bed, I'm going to stick with the 2. Actually, I may put in 3 because of the leeks that I'm doing as well in this bed. But let's go ahead and start laying everything out where it will go. I also bought some bush tomatoes, which I'm very happy about. I like to try to utilize the sun, so I'll try to keep certain things kind of low, and then I will also, have maybe some height, and then maybe either height in the back or either up high as well, just depending on what I'm doing. This time I'm going to go in between having low, height, and then low again, because of how the sun kind of hits this area of the garden. So it'll be full sun in the back for the eggplant, as well as here in the tomatoes towards the evening of the day. I do love Roma tomatoes, so we're definitely going to make sure that we do plant some of these. And I'm just putting the 4 here because I'm going to do 4 in a row going across there. I'm also going to plant basil, which is actually great to use in cooking with things like tomatoes, etc., etc. But the basil also is going to help just with certain bugs that may come around. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to end up planting that basil like right about here. I'm also going to plant thyme. So thyme is another one that's going to be very helpful when it comes to pests. So we're going to include that thyme in the back here. We're then going to look at our red pepper, which we will plant here. The pepper itself will also help with certain pests in your garden. So you definitely want to include that. And again, with certain bugs that may like tomatoes, the carrots are going to help. So you can actually plant them around the base of your tomato plants. I'm going to start them in the corners, and then once the seedlings come up, I'm going to then move them apart so they all have room to grow. So, but that's a great addition to your garden. So it looks like I'm missing two other tomato plants. I am going to go ahead and include Juliet as well, right behind the Romas. And this is going to be my tomato bed. So let's get started planting them. So a lot of times what I will do when I'm planting is add a little bit of plant food for them. This this soil, I did include soil that did have food in it already. So, but a little extra doesn't hurt, just in case if that bag of soil did not really have everything that it needs. I love these little cards. I usually have my own little metal markers that I mark everything with, but since I did not do my plants this year, I'm going to go ahead and just leave that marker right there with my plant. So I know what's what. These are great to keep. So the next year that you do your planting, you can actually start your own seedlings in the little containers that are here. So we'll put these aside. And like I mentioned, the Roma is going to go straight across here. So I'm going to mark a spot for those. Area a little wet. Okay, so I decided to hold off on planting both of my time there just to get one more eggplant in this container to see if I can get an eggplant from one of the plants. So we'll see if one of them will produce. I'm going to lightly scatter some carrots in the two corners. And then again, as they start to go, I will transplant them. For those of you who have watched my video about putting these bins together, you heard me talk about the underneath the bed, I've placed some galvanized wire to assist me with keeping the chipmunks as well as the squirrels from out of the garden bed. And so you're thinking, well, can't they just come right on in? They can just hop right in, right? Well, I have found these really cool uh, nets that you're going to see me place around this, and that is going to help protect the bed from unwanted pests to getting in and kind of either planting their own seeds, or as they used to do, take a bite of one of every single thing that was in the garden. I'm like, can't you just eat one? And I'd be happy to share with you, but to take one little bite out of every single item was just okay. I had to stop it. So you're going to see me put together a net really quickly, and that is what I use to kind of keep the garden covered. And then, of course, as we go out through the summer, we can definitely take a look at all the different beds that I've planted, but love my tomatoes, love the eggplants and carrots, as well as the pepper. I don't know if I mentioned that or not, but planted a pepper. I was hoping in this corner just to plant some onions, but I have not got my seed onions as yet, so I went ahead and just planted the leeks. And I need to double check to make sure that the pepper will do okay right next to the leeks. If not, I will be replacing those with onions, but stay tuned. So if any of my siblings are watching this, I have some marigolds sitting here, and our dad every year used to plant marigolds around our house, as well as another plant, another flower, annual. And I grew up hating marigolds and swearing that I would never, ever, ever uh, plant marigolds at my house, because every year I was like, oh my gosh, I hate marigolds. And he planted a certain variety. I don't remember now which one, but as you can see, I have marigolds sitting here in my garden. And with all the research that I found with planting, I do again use different plants to help with pests, bugs, different things like that. So it's naturally assisting the plants instead of sprays and things like that. Marigolds are one, as are nasturtiums, which I have a hard time finding, and I usually try to grow those from seed. It's very difficult to do so, at least it's been for me. As well as borage is an excellent one, and that is another one that's super hard to find as far as planting. So marigolds are great. So I usually plant marigolds around my garden inside, and they do assist with different issues with pests and things like that. But again, I mentioned the carrots. I have a couple different variety. One that's like a different colored blend. I'm just gonna sprinkle them just lightly right here in a little spot. So I know that those are my carrots. And just lightly cover it a little bit with some water. I'm going to end up adding or spraying the bed down again with additional water. So, and then over time, you will eventually probably see the little watering system that I have that I can just turn on and off, and it will water the entire garden. So I absolutely love that. But I'm going to go ahead and sprinkle the other carrots, plant the marigolds, and then start on the little net that's going to protect the plants. These are are the crab cages that I use. I had one sitting back there that was a 4x12. I wanted to try something new this year to cover two at the same time, two of my 4x4 beds at the same time, and to be able to walk in between them and kind of be in with both of the beds. The way this works is that it's going to be a single cage that's going to go around one single 4x4 bed. And I love these. I absolutely love these. So, um, oh, this is awesome. They're starting to mark them now with numbers. I don't know if you can see that on there. So that's like a number 2. So that's great. Here's a number 1. That's new. I'm not used to seeing that on it. But basically, we're just going to put this together. It's going to create a cage. And let's get started. So the way these connect together, this was the number 2 that I held up. And then we have the number 3. And the number 3 has, there's like a little spring on the end that's going to allow the number 2 to basically just fit right down over that. And I'll connect this number 2 and this number 3 that you cannot see. So this crab cage is a little different from the last one I had. This one now, my old ones that you may see, some of those, do not have a connector going around the center of it. It's just one that goes around, just they connect like here to move on up. But this one now has a connector piece that's then going to connect a bar all the way around, and then you get to choose which side you want to have as your entrance into the cage. Looking at my bed, I have my bush plants, which are low, and of course the eggplant, which is going to be a little bit low, and then the center tomatoes may be a little bit higher. So I will want to be able to get to everything. So my best bet for an entrance is either going to be on this side or the opposite side of me to allow me to get to everything within the entrance of the crab cage. So it's really interesting. I'm not used to having it set up that way. But I think it's also going to add some stability, which could be a great thing. Yeah. So a couple of these springs have shipped where the spring is over on the side, and that makes it super difficult to connect them. So I'm having to pull that up and kind of push that back so I can get that more on the inside of that hole to help connect them. Okay, so there's the cage portion, and then is the net. So for the net, if you're doing this net like me, look for the door, which has the zippers on it. And so you want to make sure that door goes into the opening that you are creating here. And for all of them, you have to determine which side is going to be your door opening. But this one is new, that it has the additional support bar, which is great. Okay, so this is the finished cage. At the bottom, there are these little ties, like you kind of see here. These are here, so when I open up the crab cage, when I unzip it, I can roll it up and tie it so that it's open here, and then I can get into my garden. It's not really time for the tomato supports yet, but I'm gonna go ahead and get them used to having it right next to it so that they can grow well right up, wrap themselves around that support. So my son is calling me. He needs help on the inside, so I'm going to sign out. But please do again, keep checking back and take a look at my garden and how things are growing and all the wonderful fruits and vegetables that I've planted. And join me again. I look forward to sharing again with you. Take care.